The sun hung low over the dusty plains, painting the sky orange as Elias Thornton stood at the altar of a weathered chapel, his fists balled tight. He could barely look at the woman approaching him, her plain gray dress swaying with each careful step. In 6 months, though, this stranger would turn his world upside down, saving his land, his legacy, and parts of himself he did not even know were broken. If you are watching this on your screen, grab your phone for a quick second and hit follow or share. That small click keeps stories like this alive, and it means the world to us. Elias's throat tightened as he adjusted his stiff collar, sweat trickling despite the morning chill. His father, Amos Thornton, sat stone-faced in the front row, his sharp gaze pinning Elias like a coyote eyeing a stray calf. The family ranch was drowning in debt, creditors circling like vultures, and this marriage was the only lifeline left. Clara Hensley moved closer, her broad figure filling the aisle. Elias's gut churned. This was not the future he had envisioned, not the wife he had dreamed of, someone who would turn heads, not whispers. Instead, he was tying himself to a woman whose family owned the neighboring land, with water rights that could save or sink his ranch in this parched territory. "Stay calm," Elias muttered under his breath, his hands shaking. "This is just a deal, nothing else." But as Clara reached the altar, something caught him off guard. Her eyes locked onto his, not with the hesitation he expected, but with a steady, almost defiant spark, like she could see right through his doubts. "Mr. Thornton," she said softly, her voice carrying a quiet strength that made him blink. "Miss Hensley," he managed, his words barely audible. The preacher's voice droned on, but Elias's mind was elsewhere, tangled in resentment toward his father, this forced union, and the woman beside him who symbolized everything he wanted to escape. The chapel's wooden walls seemed to close in as the ceremony unfolded. Elias could already hear the townsfolk snickers, the jabs about his heavy-set bride. When the preacher asked if he took Clara as his wife, Elias's "I do" came out hollow, like a man signing a contract he did not want. Clara's vow, though, rang out clear and unwavering, her voice filling the small space with a confidence that made him glance her way. Her eyes held no apology, only a fierce intensity he had not noticed before. When she said, "I do," it felt less like surrender and more like a challenge. The weight of the ring on his finger matched the heaviness in his chest as they left the chapel together. Clara walked tall, ignoring the murmurs from the sparse crowd, her posture unshaken. Elias realized he knew nothing about this woman he had just married, and that thought gnawed at him. The wagon ride back to the Thornton ranch stretched on forever. Clara sat beside him, hands clasped in her lap, her silence thick with purpose, like a storm brewing on the horizon. Elias could not stand it. "Guess you will want to see the house," he said, his tone sharper than he meant. "I have seen it," Clara replied, her eyes fixed ahead. "4 times, actually, while you were in town drowning your regrets at the saloon." Elias's grip on the reins tightened. How did she know about his late nights at the bar? He thought he had been discreet. "No idea what you mean," he said, his voice tight. Clara's lips twitched, almost amused. "Sure you do not. Just like you do not know your ranch hands are selling off your livestock to cover their own debts, or that your father owes money to half the county, not just my family." The wagon jolted over a rough patch, but Elias hardly felt it. His mind spun. "That cannot be true. The hands are loyal. They have been with us forever." Clara turned to him, her gaze piercing. "Loyalty does not fill empty stomachs, Mr. Thornton. Desperate men make desperate choices." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Your foreman, Jed Carver, has been skimming from the cattle sales for months. Your father knows but cannot afford to lose him. Jed's the only thing keeping the other hands from walking away." When they reached the ranch, Elias stared at the sagging fences, the overgrown corral, the thinning herd grazing in the distance. It was like seeing his home for the first time. His father had not just gambled away their money. The ranch was bleeding out, and this marriage was a bandage, not a fix. "How do you know all this?" he asked, his voice low. Clara stepped down from the wagon with a grace that surprised him. "I have been preparing for this marriage longer than you have, Mr. Thornton. My father did not arrange this just for water rights. Your land is the key to controlling water for 3 counties, but it takes someone sharp to make it work." She started toward the house, then stopped. "The question is, are you smart enough to listen, or too stubborn to lose everything pretending you know better?" Elias watched her walk inside, his head spinning. Who was this woman? How did she know so much about his family's troubles, and what else was she hiding? As he unhitched the horses, one thought kept nagging at him. If Clara knew this much, what was her plan to fix it? By nightfall, Elias learned that marrying Clara was like opening the door to a hurricane. He found her in his father's office, sitting behind the heavy oak desk as if it were hers, papers spread out like a war map. Ledgers, deeds, and legal contracts covered every inch, but what stopped him cold was seeing Jed Carver standing there, pale and sweating, like a kid caught stealing. "What is happening here?" Elias demanded, stepping into the room. Jed's eyes darted to Clara. "Your wife. She knows about the cattle." Clara did not look up from the papers. "Of course I know. You have been selling 12 head a month and reporting 8. You pocket the difference and plan to blame rustlers when the books come due." Elias's stomach dropped. The numbers had always been off. But his father handled the finances, and Jed was practically family. "Jed, tell me this is not true," Elias said, his voice shaking. Jed's shoulders slumped. The ranch was failing. "Elias, I have a family to feed." "Had a family," Clara cut in, her tone sharp. "You had a job. Now you have a choice. Return what you stole, or the sheriff will be here by dawn." Jed's face hardened. "You think you can just stroll in and give orders? You are nothing but a heavy woman your father paid to get rid of." The room went quiet, the air thick with tension. Elias braced for Clara to falter, but she stood slowly, her movements calm and deliberate. "Mr. Carver," she said, her voice low and steady, "you seem to think my size defines my strength. That is your first mistake." She pulled a small notebook from the desk drawer. "Your second mistake was thinking I came unprepared." She flipped it open and read aloud. "April 10th, sold 15 head to Larson's crew, reported 9. April 21st, sold 14 to the mining camp, reported 8. She looked up at Jed, whose face had gone ashen. "Should I keep going? I have months of records, every buyer, every dollar you kept." Jed's hand twitched toward his revolver, but Clara's voice stopped him cold. "I would not do that. Your third mistake was thinking I came alone." Boots thudded on the porch outside. Through the window, Elias saw 3 strangers approaching, their hard faces and holstered guns marking them as trouble. "Who are they?" Elias whispered. Clara's smile was not warm. "The kind of men who make sure promises are kept, Mr. Thornton." Jed bolted for the door, but the largest of the 3 men blocked his path. Built like a boulder, with scarred hands and eyes that had seen too much, the stranger spoke calmly. "Going somewhere, friend?" The confrontation was over in minutes. Jed, faced with 3 armed men and Clara's damning evidence, folded like a bad hand of poker. "The money's hidden in my bunk," he stammered. "Most of it, anyway. I spent some on medicine for my boy." Clara's expression softened just a fraction. "How much for the medicine?" $30. He was real sick. "Then you will return the rest, and the 30 is your final pay." She nodded to the big man. "Tate will take you to get it. Be gone by morning." As Tate led Head away, Elias grabbed Clara's arm. "Wait. Who are these men? How do you know them?" For the first time, Clara looked unsure. "That is, complicated." "Complicated how?" Elias's grip tightened. "My foreman just admitted to stealing because 3 strangers walked into my house. I deserve answers." Clara pulled free and moved to the window, watching Tate and Jed head toward the bunkhouse. "My father did not arrange this marriage just for land, Elias. Your ranch holds the most valuable water rights in 3 counties, but others want those rights. Dangerous others." "What kind of dangerous?" Elias asked, his voice low. Clara turned, and for the first time, he saw fear in her eyes. "The kind who would rather see you dead than thriving. 2 weeks ago, a man named Victor Slade offered to buy your ranch. When your father said no, Slade made it clear that accidents happen to stubborn ranchers." Elias's stomach twisted. "You are saying someone wants to kill me?" "I am saying someone wants to kill anyone who owns this land. That is why my father pushed this marriage so fast. That is why I brought protection." She gestured toward the men outside. Before Elias could respond, a gunshot cracked from the bunkhouse. Through the window, they saw Tate stumble back, clutching his arm, as Jed leaped onto a horse, rifle in hand. "He was ready for us," Clara whispered. "He knew we were coming." Another shot shattered the office window, glass spraying across the floor. Elias yanked Clara behind the desk as bullets tore through the walls. "Stay low," he shouted, grabbing his pistol. But as he peered around the desk, he froze. Jed was not alone. At least 7 riders had appeared at the edge of the ranch, all armed, moving toward the house with clear intent. "Clara," Elias said, his voice tight. "How did Jed know we were confronting him tonight?" Her face paled as the truth hit them both, because someone told him. Bullets hammered the house like a storm. Elias crawled to the gun cabinet while Clara pressed herself against the floor. "How many men do you have?" he yelled over the noise. "3," she called back. "But Tate's hurt, and the other 2 are stuck in the barn." They were outnumbered, trapped in a house not built for a fight like this. Through the shattered window, Elias saw Jed pointing at the office, directing the riders like he knew exactly where they were hiding. "Clara," he said slowly, "Jed could not have known we were in here unless someone told him our plan." Her face darkened. "Someone who knew I was confronting him tonight. But who? The only people who knew were them, Clara's men, and—" "Your father," Elias said. "Where is he?" "He left for town after the wedding. Said he had business." Clara's eyes widened, but he knew the timing. Gunfire roared again, and the smell of smoke drifted through the broken windows. Orange light flickered against the walls. Someone had set the porch on fire. "We have to move," Elias said, grabbing ammunition. "The back door is covered," Clara warned. "I saw riders circle around. They were trapped. Fire on one side, bullets on the other." But then Clara did something that stunned Elias. She stood, walked to the desk, and started shoving papers into a leather bag. "What are you doing?" he demanded. "We need to get out. These papers are worth more than this house," Clara said, her voice steady. "The real reason Jed turned on you. The real reason Slade wants this land, it is all here." She pulled out a map marked with red lines and legal notes. "This is not just about water, Elias. A railroad is coming through this territory. Your ranch is in the path of the planned route. Whoever owns this land will be richer than they can imagine." Before Elias could process this, the front wall of the house caved in, burning timbers crashing through the room. The fire was spreading fast, the smoke choking. "The root cellar," Elias said, grabbing Clara's hand. "There is a tunnel to the barn." They ran for the kitchen as the ceiling groaned behind them. But as they reached the cellar door, Elias heard his father's voice outside. "Elias, are you in there?" Amos Thornton was back, and he sounded genuinely shocked by the fire. The tunnel was old, its wooden beams creaking as they crawled through. The roar of the burning house faded behind them, but the barn held its own dangers. "Your father sounded surprised," Clara whispered in the dark. "Then who warned Jed?" Elias asked, a grim thought taking shape. They emerged in the barn to find Tate leaning against a hay bale, his arm bandaged but his gun ready. Clara's other men, Luke and Ben, were at the barn doors, watching the flames. "Ma'am," Tate said, "we have got trouble." That foreman knew exactly where we would be. Knew about the tunnel, too. Elias's mind raced. "Clara, who else knew your plan? Who knew you were coming tonight?" Her face paled in the firelight. "Only my father, and—" She stopped, her hand covering her mouth, "and his business partner, Nathaniel Gray. The man who set up this marriage, who knew about the railroad, who had access to all our family's records." The betrayal hit her hard. Her father had not arranged this marriage to save the ranch, he had set it up to destroy it. Outside, Amos's voice grew desperate. "Elias, the house is gone. If you are alive, say something." "He is not in on this," Elias realized. "My father really does not know." But before they could decide whether to trust Amos, Luke called from the door. "Riders coming. At least 12, and they are not here to help." Through the barn door, Elias saw torches moving across the dark ranch land. These were not neighbors. They rode in tight formation, weapons drawn, like soldiers. "Victor Slade," Clara said softly. "This was all planned. The marriage, Jed's theft, tonight's attack, it was all to force us out so Slade could finish us." Elias's jaw tightened. "Your father sold us out. But why? What does he gain?" Clara's eyes hardened. "Everything. If we are dead, he inherits my share of the land deal and sells the water rights to Slade without a fight, plus whatever Slade promised him." As the riders closed in, Clara reached into her bag and pulled out a second map, this one covered in different markings and official seals. "What is that?" Elias asked. "Insurance," Clara said grimly, "and the reason my father wants me dead tonight." The map showed railroad routes, water rights, and land ownership, but with a key difference. It bore the territorial government seal, signed by the railroad commissioner. "This is the real route," Clara said as hooves thundered closer. "The railroad is not coming through your ranch. It is going through the valley 3 miles south, through land that is worthless without your water rights." Elias's mind reeled. The threats, the marriage, the attack, it was all built on a lie. If Slade knows the real route, he does not. Clara cut in. "Only 3 people have seen this map. The commissioner, me, and now you." Her eyes burned with resolve. "I have been playing a longer game than anyone knew. Even my father." Gunfire erupted outside, and through the barn door, they saw Amos dive behind a trough as Slade's men closed in. "They will kill him," Elias said, reaching for his rifle. "Wait." Clara grabbed his arm. "Slade needs your father alive to sign the deed. This is about making it legal." Sure enough, Slade's voice rang out. "Amos Thornton, I know you are out there. I have got an offer." In the firelight, Slade dismounted, tall and silver-haired, his cold eyes glinting. "Your son is dead, Amos," he called, "burned with his bride. Sign over the ranch, and I will let you walk away with enough cash to start over." But Amos surprised them all. He stood, gun in hand, defiance in his voice. "My son is not dead, Slade, and I would not sell his land to a snake like you." The standoff was tense, the odds stacked against Amos. "Kill him," Slade said calmly. That was when Clara proved she was no ordinary woman. She stepped out of the barn, hands raised, the government map in plain view. "Mr. Slade," she called, her voice steady. "Before you do anything permanent, you might want to see this." Every gun turned toward her, but Clara walked forward, unshaken. "This is the real railroad survey, signed by the territorial commissioner. It shows you have been trying to steal land that will be worthless in 6 months. Slade's face paled as he saw the seals, but his voice turned cold. "Then I will kill you all and find another way to profit." Clara's smile was sharp. "That would be unwise. Mr. Slade, the territorial marshal is on his way, with orders to deal with claim jumpers and killers." Hoofbeats echoed from the east. 6 marshals rode into view, badges shining, rifles ready. "Marshal Hayes," Clara called calmly. "Right on time." Slade's face twisted with fury. "This cannot be. How did you send word 3 days ago?" "The same day I learned my father planned to have us killed," Clara said. "Did you think I would walk into this blind?" The marshals surrounded Slade's men, and the truth of Clara's plan came into focus. She had not just married Elias to save his ranch, she had set a trap to dismantle a criminal scheme threatening the whole territory. "Victor Slade," Marshal Hayes said, "you are under arrest for conspiracy, attempted murder, and illegal land grabs." Slade made a final move, grabbing his gun and shouting, "Kill them!" The fight was over in seconds. Slade's men, caught between the marshals and Clara's hired hands, surrendered when they saw the odds. Slade took a bullet in the arm, ending his threat. As the marshals led the men away, Elias stood beside Clara in the ruins of his home, finally seeing her for who she was. "You planned this all along," he said, not accusing, but in awe. "I planned to survive," Clara said, "and to make sure you could, too." "But why?" Elias asked. "You could have let Slade take everything. Why risk your life for a man who did not want you?" Clara turned to him, her eyes soft in the fading firelight. "Because I saw the real you, Elias. Not the man who judged me by my looks, but the one who would risk everything for his family. The one who crawled through a burning tunnel to save a stranger." Elias realized he had been blind to what he was gaining, too focused on what he thought he had lost. Clara was not just smart and brave, she was loyal, cunning, and had risked it all for him and his father. "The railroad money," he said suddenly. "The real route will make us rich, but not how anyone thought." Clara nodded. "The new route needs water for the station. Our water rights, fairly and legally." 6 months later, Elias stood on the porch of his rebuilt home, watching Clara oversee the new railroad station's construction. She had been right about everything: the route, the wealth, and the importance of seeing beyond the surface. He had been forced to marry a woman he misjudged. What he found was a partner who saved his life, his land, and showed him strength comes in ways he never expected. If you are watching this, take a moment to hit follow or share on your phone. That small gesture helps us keep sharing stories like this, and it means more than you know.